women say all the time, oh, there's definitely people investing with each other in the company, but you're not. No, they've never asked me. Speak up. Women don't talk about money. Start talking about money and say, I want to invest. You're putting that out into the universe and the universe will reward you. So I started interviewing women. Why don't you invest? These are women like my 3 girlfriends who were repping Home Depot, Starbucks, Costco, and Walgreens. You're putting your money in the stock market and you're not using legal insider trading to invest in commercial real estate. What the hell? I found out that the real reason most women don't invest is they don't have, Timmy, I have moms and daughters. I have sisters. And they sit in the conference and they hear me do fireside chats. And I say, let's talk about your first deal. How did you get the mortgage? The lenders didn't want to talk to me because I was a woman. But we talk about it and we walk through the path. And I have women that are now own thousands of apartments. Of the 200 women in the audience, 100 already invest. But there's 100 that want to and just don't know how to get started. When there are no men in the room, their vulnerability increases, their intimidation drops, and they can ask any question to the women in the room. What do you mean? You make $80,000 a year, you're married, your husband makes money, what are you doing with your money? I'm like, I have a Jaguar, I went to Hawaii. He's like, you're an idiot, you should be investing. And he literally took us to a bank and he co-signed a $50,000 note for me to invest in my first deal as an LP. And it changed my life. My broker's not doing a good job. And I go, you freaking idiot, you need to go canvas. You go try. I'm not talking to you again until you tell me you went out and canvassed 10 people.
Welcome to Commercially Speaking. I'm Timmy Barron, ADHD.
And I'm Bo Barron, CCIM.
And this is the Commercial Real Estate Investing Podcast, where Bo teaches me everything about commercial real estate and commercial real estate investing. I'm an actor-comedian. I started out knowing zero. Now I know quite a bit. You're director and manager of Barron Commercial Group, CCIM instructor, just all-around GOAT. Greatest of all time.
I know what you meant.
Yeah.
It's just you've never called me a goat before.
No.
You've called me other things, but...
Never a goat.
Never a goat.
Well, it's a huge compliment.
Well,
it's
thanks.
a huge compliment.
We've actually got a guest today who I would submit to you may be more qualified to be the goat than me.
I agree. But out of the two of us, you're the greatest of all time. You're the greatest of all two.
Of all two. Yeah, that's perfect.
The greatest of all two. So, what are you teaching me today?
Well, we have a very special guest, and her name is Beth Azor, and so excited to have her on the show. I understand you've got her bio, and we can bring her on, and then I'm going to tell a story about my first encounter.
Okay, great.
With Beth.
Okay, great. Well, affectionately known as the Canvassing Queen, Beth Azor is the founder and owner of Azor Advisory Services, AAS, a leading commercial real estate advisory and investment firm based in Southeast Florida. As its principal, Beth currently owns and manages 6 shopping centers in Florida and travels the country consulting with, brokering deals for, and training associates in the commercial real estate industry. A partial list of Beth's clients include Phillips Edison and Company, Brixmore Properties, the Shopping Center Group, Urban Edge Development, and DLC Management Group. Prior to founding AAS, Beth was the president of Terra Nova. That's a cool name. That sounds like my wife's first name and my first daughter's second name. Terra Nova. ADHD. Was the president of Terra Nova, Florida's largest third-party asset manager. Beth also has over 30 years of experience in managing, developing, redeveloping, and teaching commercial real estate leasing agents all over the country. She has taken it upon herself to guide budding and established retail real estate agents to conquer the market by offering commercial real estate training courses and workshops. Her canvassing workshops are legendary. Totally agree. I've never taken them, but she is an absolute legend. A graduate of FSU, Beth is a former foundation trustee and is past chairwoman of the board, the founder of the FSU Real Estate Foundation. Beth is also the immediate past president of the board of directors of Hope Outreach Center in Davie, Florida, and co-founder of 100 Plus Women Who Care in South Florida. She resides in Davie with her 2 boys, Alex and Mario. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Beth Azor.
Hey.
Hi, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're so excited.
Excited.
You know, we just met Beth and spent some time with her at MosmoCon.
Right.
But the previous MosmoCon was my first experience with Beth. And
Okay.
so I remember going, I I've told the story before, but I didn't really plan on going. You know, I'd been with Rod at the Massimo Group for years, and I didn't want to really go and just sit and hear the same stuff. And what I didn't realize about Massimo Con was he wasn't going to be sharing all the Massimo methods like we coach.
Right.
But he was bringing up incredibly successful CRE practitioners, and they were sharing with the audience how they run their business, what they actually do. And it was unbelievable. But out of all the speakers that were there, Beth is the one who made my hand hurt.
Your notes?
I took so many notes while she was speaking. I took so many screenshots of her slides and stuff that literally my hand started cramping up, which hadn't happened since probably the sixth grade.
Right.
And so I was just blown away. And so I'm so thrilled. We got to hear her again a couple months ago, or maybe just a month ago, at this last Massimo Con.
Yeah.
And so Beth, welcome. We're so excited to have you here and learn more from you.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here, you guys. Timmy, I obviously, Bo, I've known you for a while, but I got to meet Timmy in Dallas, and he was a riot right out of the gate. How does this guy fit in this whole? Right. So it was great learning more about you all as well.
Yeah, awesome. He doesn't fit. That's kind of the whole shtick, you know.
That's kind of my thing. Yeah, kind of my thing. Well, Beth, will you give us a little, you know what? Typically we ask our guests like a little 5-minute origin story or a background of how they got to the point where they're at right now. And I want to ask you that as well. But a part of that, for you, I heard you tell your first deal story at the after party or the after session or whatever it was there. And it was incredible. And so will you share that with us right now? Your first deal story?
So my first deal story was, I was getting ready to leave Terra Nova, or I was still at Terra Nova. I was the president. And we had been buying deals. I had been being LPs with my boss and partner. And we sold a property next door to a property that was for sale, 1.77 acres. And I went to my boss partner and I said, hey, we should buy this 1.2 acre site. And he said, nah, it's too small for us. Fast forward 3 to 6 months later, I leave the company. I'm out on my own. And I drive by the site and I see that it's still available. So I call, and General Electric Credit Company had owned it. They had financed, I think, a Lone Star Steakhouse, which they went under. So they had this 1.77 acre property. And I called, I said, is it still available? They said yes, for $1.2 million. And I said, and I knew that the property we sold next door to Applebee's, we got more than 1.2 million, and it was for a smaller site. So I knew that the price for what they were asking for the size was fabulous. I figured I'm going to raise $100,000 from 10 of my friends. So I bring my 3 girlfriends, my 3 best girlfriends. By the way, they rep Home Depot, Costco, TJ Maxx, Walgreens, like they're in the business.
Wow.
And I take them to a Cuban restaurant, and they're like, why are we at this hole-in-the-wall Cuban restaurant? I go, well, look out that window. And they said, yeah. I go, see that lot? They go, yeah, we're going to buy that. Like, no, we're not. And I'm like, no, we're going to buy that. No, we're not. And they had I said, no. And I told them the whole deal, and they're shaking their head, no. So I said, okay, well, screw y'all, but I'm going to go buy it. So I went and got like 5 people that agreed to between 50 and 100. And then, of course, what do you think happened with my 3 girlfriends? They came in.
Sure.
After guys, like, legitimized my idea.
Right. So, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell? So we put it under contract and we close on it. And my idea was to do 2 ground leases with restaurants because I just sold the Applebee's next door and there was a Starbucks nearby. There was all this, great food and beverage. And I thought I will do 2 ground leases for, let's say $100,000 each, and it'll be a home run. And I'm negotiating with the ground lease tenants, 2 of them. And I get a call from Walgreens. And I'm like, why are you calling? This is an off-corner site, and Walgreens only goes on corner sites. I'm like, no, but there's nothing in the area, and we like the site, and it fits, it fits. So I said, let me call you right back. And I hung up and called that guy's boss, who was one of my partners. I just got a call from your person on your team. They're calling about Walgreens. She goes, for what? I go, for our site. She goes, I'll call you right back. And then she calls me right back. She goes, yeah, it's legitimate. And I'm like, and they know it's off corner? Yeah. And so first lesson is whatever you know, things can change. So we immediately start working on a ground lease contract for Walgreens to come on the site. And I'm knee deep in the middle of this ground lease negotiation. And I wake up in a hot sweat at 4 a.m. and I'm like, why wouldn't Publix have had an exclusive on pharmacy? Publix, we had REAs, so restrictive easement agreements with a lot of people on this site. We were kind of an out parcel of a big deal. And something made me wake up in the middle of the night. And this is before we had all of our leases on Dropbox. So I called my friend, my partner, and I said, because she's the one that did all the due diligence with me. And on the leasing sign on the property said, ground leases available, no burgers, no banks, or no gas. Because I had a Shell and I had a McDonald's and I had a Bank of America. But I was like, don't call me if you're one of those uses. I can't do you. I said, did we not look at the Publix lease? She goes, of course we looked at the Publix lease. I said, wasn't there a pharmacy exclusive? She goes, I'm sure there was. I go, wow, we didn't key in on that. So I rushed to the office. I look up the lease. Sure, you know what? There's a frickin' pharmacy exclusive. So here I am, 35 years in the business, and I'm having to put the tail between my legs and call Walgreens and go, I'm so sorry.
Oof.
Reading the documents, lesson number 1, we have an exclusive.
Now, can I ask you a question real quick? I think Timmy's good with some of the language you're using, but I want to make sure.
Yeah.
So first of all, you get what an exclusive is.
Yes, I do. If Publix has an exclusive on pharmacy, then they're the only ones that can open and run a pharmacy in that area.
On that actual site.
Okay.
And her parcel is part of that site.
Gotcha. Okay.
So unless something happens, no other pharmacy business can happen on that site.
Okay.
The other one I want to make sure you're
Easement?
good with is the REAs.
Yeah, I don't know what a REA is other than a restrictive easement.
Yeah.
And
Beth, could you
use,
explain?
Restrictive use. Right. So I have Lowe's and Applebee's and Starbucks and Shell Oil and Bank of America. And in their documents, it says no one on this site can do X, whatever their business is. So no banks, no burgers. So it's additional exclusives.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
So, but lesson number 1 is you always look at the documents, and it's really embarrassing 35 years in to call in the middle of legal fees going on saying, I'm so sorry, I missed this.
Yeah.
And I said to my partner, I'm sure we read it, but here was the thing. We ignored it. And why did we ignore it? Because there were 50 years or 30 years of Walgreens only going on corners. And because our site was off corner, we dismissed the exclusive because Walgreens would never come to our site.
Sure.
So it was a lesson, right? This is my lesson to the audience. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So Walgreens was a little upset, but they really, really wanted the site. And they're like, well, did you call Publix? Can we, make a deal? And of course I called Publix. There's no deal. So I go back to doing the 2 restaurants and I'm working on them, but I'm calling Publix every few months because the amount of rent that Walgreens is going to give to me and the amount of value Walgreens would come and deliver to me on this site would be way significantly more than the 2 restaurants.
Sure.
So one day I just called Publix, and I had a very good relationship with Publix, but Walgreens keeps calling me. So the more they keep calling me, the more I know, this rent's even going to go higher. So I called my friends at Publix one day and I said, for $1 million, would you give it up? And there was a pause and they said, well, sure, for $1 million, I'd give it up. I go, okay, I can't get you $1 million, but now we know there's a number.
Yeah.
Then I went back to Walgreens and I said, okay, for $1 million, they'll give it up. So what can we agree to do? I'll throw in, you throw in. And so we agreed to a number less than half of $1 million. So we're going to split it. It's around 300 to 400, and Publix says they'll give it up. And then so now I'm all happy, hunky dory. We're going forward. And then my attorney goes, back up, Beth. All those other people, Lowe's, Publix, Applebee's, McDonald's, Shell Oil, Bank of America. I think that's 7 of them. You have to go get their releases.
Oh,
because it's the REA. It's the exclusives for the whole parcel. And my attorney said, don't waste your time. You're never going to get them, which is like, a red cape to a bull. I said, oh no, if I could get Publix to agree, I'm going to get everyone else. And it took me a couple months, but through relationships and just a little bit of money, we ended up paying, I think, Starbucks $17,000, and I think I paid Shell Oil $37,000. So I think it was less than $60,000. Everyone else gave the releases to me for free. We were able to get the releases on the pharmacy exclusive. We were able to move forward. So now we're moving forward, and the developer for Walgreens calls and says, we want to buy it. We don't want to just do a fee development. Like, we don't just want Walgreens to pay us to build their store. We want to buy it from you. And I called my partners and I'm like, we don't want to sell this, right? This is Walgreens. This is like grade A. And my partners very smartly said, because this is very, very early in my sponsorship general partner life. This is my first deal without my boss, being my, anchor. They said, for a price we would. I'm like, oh yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So I went to the developer and I said, we'll sell it for this, which we thought was stupidly high. And they said, okay.
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, great. So I said, but I'm not going to pay my portion of the Publix fee. And I'm not going to pay your commission, your guy's commission. Like, you've got to, if you want to buy it, you got to pay the whole Publix fee and you got to pay the commission to your guy. And they agreed, which is even better for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we put it under contract, and I'm coming to the end of the story. We're in due diligence, and on the site, they find out in their due diligence that Florida Power and Light, which is our statewide utility, company, had a transformer on my property. And when I bought the property, my due diligence didn't find that, but these guys found that. Now I've got to get FP&L, this conglomerate, to move the transformer. So they're like, yeah, we'll get to it in 6 months. And by the way, this is like in 08, 09. So I felt the heat that some problem was coming in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and sat at the FP&L office for 3 days with cookies. And I finally got them to come and move the transformer. When they went to go back to do the survey, they missed it by this much.
Oof.
They didn't move it far enough off the site.
Oh.
And I said, I called the developer who wanted the buyer, and I said, you got to buy or I'm pulling it. And they bought even though the transformer didn't get fully off of our site. And we made 390%, 99% on our money in 2.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
For my first deal. So it was a great first deal, but it was a great first deal because so many lessons learned. Like, I can overcome 7 people who tell me I can't do this.
Right.
I can overcome a huge conglomerate who says you're never going to get this. I could overcome the embarrassment of I'm supposed to be this veteran in retail leasing that I didn't read the documents, right? I could overcome FP&L with cookies. Like, there's so many lessons learned, and it was a great first deal. And we made a lot of money, which is even always the best.
Absolutely. One thing that Bo quotes you from time to time of don't say no for other people. And
don't say no for the prospect.
Yeah, for the prospect.
So many people have this mindset.
Right.
Like, I just was in Atlanta doing a canvassing workshop 2 days ago, and I'm with a team, and I said, well, what about those guys? And my clients, my students said, no, we've heard that they don't really want to expand. I go, you're saying no for the prospect. Let's go in and let have them tell us that they don't I hear that they don't want to. Let's go in and talk to them.
Right. When I was doing research before Bo and I started a podcast, I went out to see what kind of content was out there in commercial real estate. And you are somebody that popped up because you have a ton of You have a ton of content that you put out, not just speaking, but also I popped in a couple weeks ago to something I think you do on a weekly basis where you get women in the industry together. What is that called? What is
Women Investor Wednesdays.
Yes, Women Investor Wednesdays. And so, and this was one of the reasons I was so excited. You are out there making a huge difference, and you're putting all this out there for others to be inspired and to learn, all for free, which I admire so much. Can you tell me a little bit more about starting to make content and leading up to what you're doing now?
I was doing training and workshops and boot camps to get, and I was getting paid to do it. And I like doing that, but that's for big companies. Like big companies will say, come in, and like I just was in Atlanta and we want you to do a workshop for our team of 30 and go take 6 of them canvassing. And they can afford to pay me. And I'm happy to take their money because I'm teaching, I think we're going to get 3 leases out of 2 days of being in Atlanta. I just heard from the leasing agent this morning. She had a showing yesterday. She has another showing. So I'm valuable. I bring value. There's a good ROI on their investment with me. But there's a lot of people that can't afford that. There's smaller companies, family companies. They don't own 40 assets. They're not REITs. And they would see me at shopping center conferences and say, oh, we heard that you do that. And then I wrote 2 books. I wrote Don't Say No for the Prospect and the Retail Leasing Playbook. But I felt there was people out there that I could help that couldn't afford me. And I said, how can I help them? And it was pretty easy if I just started posting on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter that I could reach so many more people. And then I started doing these YouTube videos and then creating, so I think there's over 500 YouTube videos. So when people call and say, I want to hire you, to coach me, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of expensive, but there's 500 videos on YouTube. Just go watch them for free. And even I just feel bad for some of the people. I don't feel bad charging the companies, but I feel bad when someone, one-off wants to try to hire me. And even, I don't even want them to buy the book. I say, I did a podcast. I did a podcast for the book where every 2 chapters, I talked about the cliff notes of the chapter. So you don't even need to go buy the book.
Yeah.
Just listen to the podcast that says every 2 chapters, this is what you should have gotten from reading the book. Right.
Wow.
With the women, I found out during COVID that of all of the commercial real estate investors, only 3% are women,
right,
and half of that are inherited or spouses. And so really I'm part of 1.5%, which I think is deplorable.
Yeah.
And so I started interviewing women. Why don't you invest? These are women like my 3 girlfriends who were repping Home Depot, Starbucks, Costco, and Walgreens. And you're putting your money in the stock market and you're not using legal insider trading to invest in commercial real estate. What the hell? So I found out that the real reason most women don't invest is they don't have peers that do it. And so I said, oh, I can help that because I can interview women on a podcast every week so that the women can see, oh, there's a woman that does self-storage. There's a woman that does student housing. There's a woman that does retail. And if they can see it, they can be it.
When I jumped in, because I jumped in to watch, I think it was 2 Wednesdays ago, and I have 2 daughters, and I also have a wife who's always been interested in real estate. She's from Ireland, and of course I'm come from a commercial real estate family, but I was never involved. So I'm not really her hook in, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Right. But watching that, I don't even know if I was allowed to be in that Twitter space.
Of course you are.
Yeah, okay. But I almost felt like I was like sitting in on a exclusive club just because I'm not a woman. But my point here is it was so what's the word I'm looking for? I was so happy that exists for my daughters. And that goes beyond to all women, because it's just a big thing that I've noticed as I've come into this world. It's just how it is dominated by men, especially the investor side of it, not to mention everything else in the industry. And what you are doing is legendary. Like, it really is. And I was going to ask you, like, why, why aren't there more women investors? And it seems like through the conversations you've had, you're like, well, they don't have peers that do it. Is there anything else to that?
So the first thing they say to me when I start asking them, they go, well, I don't have $1 million. I go, you don't need $1 million. I invested in 4 deals last year of 25,000 each as an LP. And they go, 25,000, I have 25. Okay. Then they go, well, it's risky. I go, do you invest at all? Sure. Well, where do you invest? The stock market. That's not risky. My Netflix stock dropped 80% 2 years ago. It's risky. Well, it's complicated. I don't like numbers. And that has been told to women our whole life. I'll never forget in 3rd grade, I'm in an open house with my parents and the teachers. And like, she's not going to be good at math and science. English and history will be her thing. And women have been told that our whole life. So
wow.
They're intimidated by math. And so I try to overcome that too. Like there's only a few formulas we need, but, so it's risky. It's scary. They're worried about losing money. And then I just say, well, have you ever lost money in the stock market? And I go, but you're the women I'm speaking to are women that are in the business.
Yeah.
Like in the business. Like I'm not talking to a HR person for the Hilton. I'm talking about someone who's repping Starbucks, finds a site for Starbucks, and then hands that nice little package over to a guy. And then doesn't even say, can I throw my commission in as an LP? They don't. So I'm just I'm not teaching the women how to do it. I'm inspiring them. I'm motivating them. I'm exposing them to, there are hundreds of us out there. There aren't thousands. I'm working on that. But when they sit in and I have a conference, so this whole year will be my 5th one. And it's funny, Timmy, I have moms and daughters. I have sisters. And they sit in the conference and they hear me do fireside chats with women and I say, let's talk about your first deal. How did you get the mortgage? Oh yeah, well, the mortgage brokers, the lenders didn't want to talk to me because I was a woman. So, but we talk about it and we walk through the path. And I have women that are now own thousands of apartments. Yeah. So we talk about their journeys, and the women of the 200 women in the audience, 100 already invest, but there's 100 that want to and just don't know how to get started.
Right.
Normally we'd save this to the end, but since we're talking about it, like where can people, especially women, if they wanted to participate in the Women Investor Wednesdays, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Or if they wanted more information on your conference, where do they go? Like, where do they access that?
So Azor Academy has the link to the conference.
Okay.
There's 23 tickets left. It's a great Christmas present, Timmy, for your wife. By the way.
Great.
It's March 13th and 14th in Fort Lauderdale. But
perfect.
And
Stay at the
the
condo.
reason I started the podcast was, again, I know that we only have about 200 to 250 women at the conference. So that means there's lots of women that can't come. They have little kids. They take care of their parents. Maybe they can't afford it. So that's why I did the podcast, because I thought every week I can put a woman on the stage. A podcast is a stage. You all know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a stage at a conference. It can be a virtual stage.
Right.
So that's why I do it now. Every time I meet a woman who's investing, so Bo and Timmy, if you come across women who you find out invest in different asset classes, please send them to me, because I want every woman that invests on my podcast.
Great.
So, but they can find it on Azor Academy. I always reach out. I tell my guys all the time, send your wives. If you want your wives to jump on board with what you're doing, send your wives, because it just opens a whole different world. And like the guys say, like Timmy said, I didn't know if I should be on the podcast. I love you guys to listen to the podcast. I don't really let men in the room on the conference. And the reason why is I found a couple years ago, there were like 30 men in the room. And it was a complete difference because the women, when there are men in the room, they don't stand up and go, remind me again what a cap rate is.
Wow. Yeah.
But when there are no men in the room, their vulnerability just increases, their intimidation drops, and they can ask any question to the women in the room. But when there's men in the room, so I really discourage men coming to the conference.
That makes sense. Wow. That's insightful. Insightful.
Well, hopefully we can send some women your way.
That's right. That was going to be my other question. What can we do to help this movement, or to help? And one that you said was like, anybody that we come across, send your way, which we absolutely will. But is there anything else that, like, men in the industry that are hearing this or are being inspired by what they're seeing, by what you are doing. Is there anything that, or just personally, Bo and I can do to help in with what you are doing?
So I got very lucky. So I worked for this guy, Stephen Vitchell. He was my boss. When I started with Terra Nova, we had 11 people. And about 6 years into it, so he was investing and he kept coming to me saying, do you want to put money in this retail deal we're buying? And I'm like, I don't have any money, and then he'd come again like 2 years later. I go, I don't have any. He says, what do you mean? You make $80,000 a year. You're married. Your husband makes money. What are you doing with your money? I'm like, I have a Jaguar. I went to Hawaii. He's like, you're an idiot. You should be investing. And like the third time he came to me, he said, don't tell me you don't have any money. And I'm like, he goes, I know you make over 6 figures. And I'm just like so embarrassed because, now we have Heat tickets and Panther tickets and we fly to Florida State games. We're blowing our money. And I'm thinking, I am doing great because we both have maxed out on our 401ks.
Yeah.
And he literally took us to a bank and he co-signed a $50,000 note for me to invest in my first deal as an LP.
Wow.
And it changed my life because he said, okay, now with this investment or with my co-signing, you, for every commission you get from now on, 20%, you have to commit to me that you'll put in an investment account.
Wow.
Which of course I did, and even more than that, because I realized the minute I invested $50,000 in this deal, I was the leasing agent. We jacked rents. We jacked the NOI. I was responsible for doing that. Within 6 months, we refied. And everyone got their equity back. I got my 50. I paid off the bank, and I went and did 7 more deals with him. So I'm not saying that all the guys out there should go co-sign loans for their people. But what they should do is, if they are of the mindset to do it, if they're syndicating a deal, are they including the people in their office? We had admin that put money in. We would create opportunities for women and men, the team, to invest in our deals. And I know companies that syndicate deals, but they don't include the team. It's just guys on the golf course.
Sure.
So can you open it up a little bit? Can you? Because I'll tell you, I recently was on my former partner's private jet when we flew to the New York shopping center conference. And I said, why did you do that? Like, I've never really, I talk about it all the time. And I go, what were you thinking? And he goes, I was thinking velvet handcuffs. I wanted to keep you at the firm. And what a better way to do that is if I helped you make more money than just your salary and your compensation.
Right.
And if I taught you how to invest.
Yeah.
I ended up leaving. People are now wondering, well, why did she leave? Well, I was a single mom of a 4-year-old, and I was the president of a company, and I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, and I couldn't do that. I had to go be a mom. So I left for my family and for my son. And then after that, I adopted a second son. So I'm a single mom of 2 boys, and I could have never had a good relationship with my son or even think about adopting a second son had I been working that crazy hamster wheel that I was at the time, running a firm of 150 people. So He understood that. He understood as a female and a single mother, I had to leave, but we're still very good friends. And of all of the 7 deals I invested with him, I'm still in one of them.
Wow.
We sold everything else, but we still have one.
Man, on top of everything else, you're a single mother too. Wow. It's a legend. I don't know what else to say, but legend. But I think what I heard you say was being aware of who we can overlook, right? I think there's so much of it right now that, when you said, when there were men in the room at the conference or at the academy, that, women were not as vulnerable to ask questions, and that I think, I don't think too many men are aware of that, right? Or it could be a subconscious thing where it's like, oh, why, I'd like to be there. I'd like to be involved or whatever. And I think when it comes to helping others, like what your one did for you, to co-sign that $50,000 loan, he saw something in you. And I think just really peeling your eyes and be aware of who you might be overlooking or why things are being overlooked, and seeing the talent in other people that maybe you wouldn't see otherwise, to do that little extra push.
Yeah, I think for me, like when I go put a deal together and I'm putting a group of investors together, I'm calling the people I know and I have relationships with, and they all look like me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
There's not, but like the awareness, what I'm hearing when you're communicating this is an encouragement to be aware that there are others that aren't like me, that I do have relationships with, that I just need to be aware that I can spread the opportunity around larger than I am.
Right.
And
it's like that social, what Brian Krall told you about, like the different,
the triple bottom line.
Yeah, the triple bottom line, and one of those is the social. Was that what it was?
Social capital.
Yeah, social capital. You said, well, you're not the best at that one.
I'm not.
Right?
The idea here, Beth, if you hadn't heard the concept of the triple bottom line, is you have your financial capital, right? And so we invest that financial capital for a return. But when it comes to social capital, we have relationships that we can also invest to provide a return for them. And what I often don't think as much about is using my network and my relationships to create opportunities for others, to invest that social capital for the good of others. I think that way on the financial side, just kind of naturally. But when it comes to the social capital, it's like it doesn't occur to me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
when I talk to the women, like say, how do I get started? And exactly, I think to me what you said, I said, start communicating that you're interested.
Yeah.
Start communicating, I'm interested in investing. If anyone here in the company is doing it, my husband and I are interested, or I'm interested. But I'm curious, do I have to put in $100,000? Is there lesser amounts? I hear like women say all the time, oh, there's definitely people investing with each other in the company. I go, but you're not. No, they've never asked me. You speak up. You speak up and say, I'm interested, we're interested, and maybe it's and they go, and then the women say, well, what if it's $100,000 or $250 per? I go, well, then you're not ready yet. But at least they know, and then you need to save your shekels, 20% of every commission. Like I was not prepared. No one ever told me to do that. But the minute like I got it and I did it, and then I was like putting 40% of my commissions. So find out, spread the word. I'm interested. Tell people, tell your other tenant rep brokers, just start talk. Women don't talk about money. Start talking about money and say, I want to invest. Who do you know that's investing? I said, and then I tell them, watch the podcast. You don't have to come to the conference. Watch the podcast and reach out to every woman that's investing. And whenever I'm interviewing women on the podcast, I say, do you syndicate? Do you bring other women in? What is your minimum? So that they need to secure the language, the vocabulary. And then I say, reach out to those women and say, I might be interested in investing with you.
Yeah.
Now, do your due diligence for sure, but start saying, I want to invest. And then you're putting that out into the universe, and the universe will reward you.
That's right. And I think, from the other side of the coin, it's like anybody, I know, Bo, if you saw anybody that was interested and made it known to you, and you saw their work ethic or their qualities, their, values, you saw things in them where you're like, well, look, absolutely.
We profile.
You would jump on it.
We profile our ideal investors.
Yeah.
Okay. And so a lot of times when you're on the LP side, like you have no responsibility and you have no authority. And so if you're somebody that requires control, so we profile who a great investor is, and 0% of the time is gender a part of it.
Right. Right.
It's never an issue. However, as I was mentioning before, my circle's full of white guys.
Yeah.
And, but if I heard a woman talking about, wanting to invest, I'd absolutely, like, it would help me with the awareness side. Like, absolutely, I'd be interested in bringing it
right,
in,
right. And I think that's just that add, icing to the cake. It's like I think there are so many people in that position where they can help that just have no clue. They have no clue because.
So I'm interested, Bo. So the next time you have a deal, send me the deal. I'm interested. And then what happens is when I invest, then I ask people that I know that want to invest, hey, I just invested in a Green Bay limited stay hotel. I'm from Wisconsin. It's 3 blocks from Lambeau Field.
Oh, nice.
So these 2 women bought this. This is their second one. And, the prefs and the promotes were great. The fees were low, everything that checked my box. And then I said to them, are you looking to raise more money? Yes, we are. We need another 500,000. I said, okay, great. So then I said but you have to be careful, right? With chain of, the SEC or, all
Sure.
this IRS and all this stuff. But I just said to some people, are you interested? I just looked at a new investment that I'm probably going to go in. And if they say yes, then I say to these people, call this person. And a bunch of more of my friends jumped into this Green Bay hotel deal because I'm putting my money in. And then they're like, well, if Beth is, and now
Well, sure,
I
you've got
always
a huge
say,
influence.
Yeah.
I said, you have to do your own due diligence. Green Bay has a soft spot in my heart. I'm from Wisconsin. But that's the one. There's one of my friends, Aaron Zucker. I don't know if you know Aaron. Do you know Aaron?
I don't.
You guys should know him. He's 31. And I think in the last 3 years, he bought 34 or 38 deals. I mean, a hustler.
Wow.
And
Come on, Zucks.
I had him on the stage. I made him put on a skirt and a wig. I said, I don't know anyone that's bought 34 deals in 2 years, so I want you to come. I don't know anyone. So even though you don't have the right plumbing, I want you to share how you've been able to do this.
Nice.
But he sponsored last year the conference. Why did he sponsor? Because women are looking for deals, and he has deals, and he syndicates deals.
Yeah.
So now women have met him, and now they're investing in his deals.
Yeah.
Well, I think you just had a call with my partner, Brad Arns. And so our Hearthstone Capital, we're actively raising equity right now for our fund too. And so, yeah, that's
already started, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we may, I'll shoot that to you later today if he hasn't already. I wanted to transition a little bit because you're very interesting to me in this sense. One is what you do so well is so very analog. You are the definition of boots on the ground. The moniker of canvassing queen is you are boots on the ground. You are talking to people face to face. You're moving, and you seem to have zero fear going into these places over and over and over again. At the same time,
is canvassing the same as prospecting?
Why don't you define canvassing real specifically?
So canvassing is walking into a store. It's not cold calling. I'm not calling the nutrition store that's next to the Publix. I'm walking in saying, hey, love this nutrition store. I own shopping centers in the area. Do you want other locations? So you're physically going in.
Gotcha.
That's what canvassing is.
Gotcha.
But we're in this digital age. Some of our best podcast episodes, we're talking about AI and how it can gain all these efficiencies. So in this digital age, what you do so well is so very analog. However, at the same time, you've adopted, the use of social media, and I'm sure you're starting to use AI as well to augment what you do, boots on the ground. But you do it from the investor point of view, not the broker, even though you train brokers. My understanding is you're not really a broker. You walk in there because you're looking for a tenant for your shopping centers. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So if you owned a shopping center and I said, if you had to qualify, what are the two most important things for a tenant to come into your shopping center if you own the shopping center? The two most important things are experience and cash. If you got a sign call and someone said, hey, I want to open in your shopping center. I see you have a vacancy. I'm a nutrition store and I have 5 locations. Goosebumps, 5 locations. Goosebumps, because that's probably going to be a deal. If the number one thing is another location, why wouldn't we go talk to people in other shopping centers, right?
Right.
And you could call the nutrition store, but they're not going to. I have never made a deal by cold calling a retailer. Now, I'm talking about local and regional tenants. Of course, the nationals, Starbucks, Chipotle, Cava, Home Depot, I'm calling them, okay? But of all of the tenants that fill our shopping centers, the average is about 25% national, 75% local and regional. So if I have to fill 75% of shopping center with locals and regionals, and they're down the street or a mile away or 3 miles away, I'm not going to get any progress calling them. But I'm going to get a lot of progress walking in the door.
Yeah.
And I walk in the door with a flyer like this, and I say, hey, I have shopping centers in the area. Have you thought about expansion for 2025? I don't ask, is the owner here? Because if it's a clerk or a gatekeeper, I'm going to definitely disrespect them if I go in and say, is the owner here? And they're like, screw you, or why don't you think I'm the owner? And half the time they are the owner, and they're not going to admit they are because you're in sales. So I just did this in Atlanta. I told them, you all are going to think I'm planting people, because when you treat the gatekeeper with respect and you say, hey, I have shopping centers in the area, are you looking to expand? And they go, oh no, that's not me. But you've kind of made it aspirational by treating them with respect. They go, here's the owner's name and number. Like of the 40 people we spoke to in Atlanta on Tuesday, I think we got 37 owners and like names and numbers.
Wow.
It's so much easier to say, no, thank you, click. When you're in front of them and you're handing them a flyer. I'm in 38 years of canvassing over 10,000 people. I've never done a deal first canvas. But what I've done is gotten dialogue. The goal is for dialogue. And having a flyer helps with dialogue. They go, oh, I've been there. Oh, do you shop there? What do you think should go there? And you start dialogue. You treat them with respect. You get information. And if you don't get dialogue with them and they go, it's not me, but I'll leave your flyer. When the boss comes in and they see a flyer and it says second-gen restaurant space with a 30-foot hood and a 200-gallon grease trap, and all of a sudden there's this piece of information, not a business card that says nothing, but a flyer that talks about your shopping center and the infrastructure of the vacancy, they're calling you. So how I have taken the analog boots on the ground to the next level with social is, and this just happened, this is a perfect thing that happened 48 hours ago.
Nice.
I'm canvassing with this team. We go in, it's the Fry Guy. The Fry Guy. D.A. Fry Guy.
The Fry Guy. Sounds like a Chicago joint.
And it's like 800 square feet. Okay. And the girls are like, we're not sure. I like, don't say no for the prospect. So we go in there. Hey, we talk to Ashley, who's like 18. Hey, here we have the so-and-so mall down, a couple miles away. We have a couple food court spaces. Are you interested? She goes, well, that's not me. I'm in high school. I'm like, oh, okay, well, can we leave this flyer? How many locations do you guys have? Because, well, my boss has 8 restaurants.
Yeah.
Oh, 8 restaurants. 8 restaurants. Yeah. All the Fry Guys? She goes, no, soul food, da-da-da-da-da. We're like, okay, awesome. Can we leave the flyer?
The salad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
The smoothie guy.
Yeah, the veg. And I go, who would we follow up with? And she tells us his name and his number. He comes every morning from 8 to 9. So now it's like, perfect. Thank you so much. Ashley, give her the flyer. We leave. We go out. We take a picture, phone, in front of the sign holding the flyer. So I've got the flyer.
Yeah.
I've got my cell phone in front of the Fry Guys sign, and we take a picture, and then we go to Instagram, find the Fry Guy,
So good.
and we're, hey, this guy's name, Billy, we were just in your store. We dropped off a flyer. We have ABC Mall. We have some food court spaces. Would love to talk to you. Within 30 minutes, we're already 2 shopping centers over. I look at Instagram, and hey, I'm very interested. Ashley called me. Call me. We pull over, we call the guy. They set a showing for yesterday. I just talked to the leasing agent an hour ago. They had the space. They love it. They're not only going to talk about a food court space, they're going to also talk about a restaurant space we have, because the guy's got 7 concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
what a good move.
Ding.
Oh yeah,
That
and that's
Instagram move.
a great example. I also heard you at Massimo Con, I think 2 years ago. You were talking about how you're, as opposed to just showing up in person, you're also reaching out to the mom and pops through DMs on Facebook or Instagram. How is that different? Like your first outreach to them is through a DM on a social media platform.
So sometimes they ignore me because they think I'm spam. I think I told you guys the bridal salon story at Massimo where I dropped off 5 flyers 5 times. I DM'd her 5 times. And until I got in front of her, I said, well, did you see my flyers? No. Did you see my DMs? Oh, I thought they were spam.
Yeah.
But of every 10 people I DM on Instagram or Facebook, 3 respond. And usually the 3, out of the 3, I can get a showing of one of them. Like usually their thing is this for real? Yes, it's for real. Where are your properties? Here. What are your rents? This. And 2 might not want the area or the rent. But 1, I can usually get to a showing. So think about that. 10%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is super hot. Like again,
That's a
I could
great
make
hit
500.
rate.
I could literally make 500 cold calls in the next week and not get 5 showings.
Right.
So why it works on social, Bo and Timmy, is 90% of the time I'm getting right through to the owner.
Yep.
Right.
Because the owners monitor their Facebook and Instagram pages. They don't want their employees to do it because they might be complaining about their employees.
Right.
So I'm literally getting really right almost to the owner, and I'm bypassing the gatekeeper, which I love my gatekeepers. But if I can get right to the owner, that's much faster.
Well, hell yeah.
So when you walk in in person, and I've heard you say this live and on videos, you're like, hey, I own shopping centers in the area. Have you thought about expansion? That's sort of your just straight to the point. You're going to make the assumption that the person you're talking to is the owner, whether they are or not. Is it the same when you're DMing? Is it the same kind of straight to the point, or is it a little different?
No, it's always straight to the point, because when people go, I say, well, why don't you canvas? Well, I'm afraid of rejection. Well, why would they reject you? Because they don't like salespeople. Why don't they like salespeople? They don't want to be interrupted. I'm literally in and out of those spaces in 2 minutes because I'm respecting their time. They're busy entrepreneurs. And like people, I had someone say, that DM thing doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? Well, I try all the time and I never get a response. I go, well, and this is live at a conference. I go, bring me your phone. Show me. And if I had like links, like I go, no one's clicking on links, buddy. I go, look at my phone. And I have examples right there. And it's, sometimes I'll say, hey, like in Cleveland, I have this asset in Cleveland I do for the owner of the Cavs. So I wanted, there's a Ritz-Carlton that is part anchor of the deal. And so if I go to a brow or massage or facial place, hey, would you like a location downtown next to the Ritz? I have a shopping center. That's all I say. Or I'll say to a sneaker place, do you want a location next to the Cavs arena? So I try to get their attention by something. If I put myself in their shoes, I'm not saying to the brow place lady, the facial lady, do you want to be next to the Cavs arena?
Right.
Saturday in South Florida, I live in South Florida, we got the Miami Fort Lauderdale Best of book in the Miami Herald. And boy, I was going to town. I because the best of this and the best, whatever I don't have in my shopping centers, I'm DMing the best of. And so I'll say, hey, saw you in the best of a magazine today, would love to have your IV B12 place in one of my shopping centers in Davie. So it depends on who I'm talking to, but there's no links, there's no flyers, there's just, and in January, it's always great to be aspirational. Do you have, any plans for 2025 expansion? I own shopping centers.
Yeah.
That's what I say. And they're like, what? Yeah, like entrepreneurs want more locations.
Yes.
Yeah, you're walking in ready to give them something that they probably want.
Well,
and if they decide, I opened a tennis store. I love tennis. I'm a tennis player. I'm going to open 5 stores. And they open one and go, this is awful. I don't want to open anymore. They still want to talk to me because they're going to have to negotiate a renewal. And if I'm in real estate, they can get information from me.
I love that you're sharing this, because if somebody, our audience is brokers and investors. And if you're a broker, you can use this to serve your clients better, stand out from the competition.
Yeah. Most
people don't do any of this. If you're an investor, you can use it to actually fill up your centers.
Right.
And this works. It'd be a little bit nuanced, but you could do this in office. You can do it in industrial.
Yeah.
But here's my question. Have you always had this fearless kind of personality, or was this learned behavior? And
I always had it.
So what do you say to the person who naturally doesn't? It's the same person that's going to have a hard time picking up the phone and making cold calls.
Hire someone that does.
Nice.
Easy enough.
It's well, and not me. Just go hire a kid that is fearless, because here's the thing. I coach people and like that want to buy shopping centers or want to add to their portfolio. And it's month after month where I'm saying you've got to go find the 87-year-old guy who owns the shopping center and just keep talking to him until he sells to you. And every month after month, I go, how many people did you go talk to? And they don't. I need to lose 20 pounds. I need to stop eating, and I don't. Right. There's certain people that they would rather literally go to the dentist and have 4 teeth pulled than go walk into. So know what in every cell of your being. I'm not going to push someone to do something that they absolutely like. Put me in a cubicle and tell me to do an Argus run and sit there for 8 hours. I'd rather go to the dentist or the gynecologist. Yeah. I'm not doing that. But I will hire someone to do that. So if someone doesn't have it, they're never going to do it. And if you sit around and you keep pushing them and think that one day they're going to just wake up and the light bulb's going to go off, no. Now, I do, I have this other podcast, Timmy. I don't know if you've heard it. I own a shopping center. Now what? I just started it like 2 months ago. It's so much fun. And I started it because I have these people who buy these shopping centers. And they're buying their first shopping center. They have no idea.
I remember that feeling.
Yeah, right. And so they say, well, my broker's not doing a good job. And I go, you freaking idiot. You need to go canvas because, and I like yell at them. I go, you go try. So don't beat up your broker when you've never even done it. And you own a $10 million asset or a $3 million asset. And you're yelling because you hired a broker who leases your last space that's 1,200 square feet. Maybe they're going to make $3,000. Like put yourself in. So I tell those guys, I'm not talking to you again until you told me you went on Canvas 10 people.
Yeah.
Because it does them they have a whole different perspective of hiring third party when they actually get off their butt and stop complaining and do it for one afternoon.
Yep.
But no, I would not. If I said to my people, you need to go canvas, by the third time they're not canvassing, they either need to find another seat on the bus in my company, or they just need to go do something in another company.
Yeah.
You can't push people to sell.
Yeah. How often do you run into somebody who's not natural, like you are, like just kind of born with this fearlessness, but they do want to, they do want to get better at canvassing. How often do you run into that where it's like, maybe there's some potential there?
I'm not going to say that I don't. I think that intelligence, if I've met owners of shopping centers who want to make more money and they will overcome this fear or this anxiety because they see what I show them and they go, oh yeah, like I need to, like this fear needs to get squelched.
Right.
Because I think you guys were in the audience when 2 years ago at Massimo Con, a guy goes, he was just a jerk. He's like, there's no way you canvas for properties you own. Like how is that even worth it? And then, so this year, and I was like, and I said, I'm going to like put this guy in his place. And this guy was in the audience this year. And I don't know if you remember, but I said, this is why it's worth it. Let's walk through the numbers. Yeah. And it was an $800,000 for if I could lease a 1,500 square foot space by canvassing, and it took me 40 hours to do it. But I raised the value, and it wouldn't take me 40 hours, by the way. And it raised the value of my shopping center $800,000. So when I tell an owner of a property who's a shy person and an introvert, if you go figure out a way to go canvas 30 people and get a showing and lease a 1,200 square foot space in your shopping center and you raise the value $800,000, Timmy, they figure out how to get over their fear.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
yeah.
Look, let's not gloss over how this works. Okay. So, little mini quiz.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So, Timmy, if you lease, say, 1,200 square feet in a retail shopping center, okay, it's generally going to be a triple net lease. So the annual rent would equate to what? I mean, what is the annual rent? If all the expenses are passed through, the annual rent would be what? Say NOI.
Oh, that would be your net operating income.
Right. So that annual lease payment goes straight to increasing the net operating income of the shopping center.
Yes.
And if you're going to turn net operating income into value, like she's saying a $1,200 lease can turn into $800,000 worth of value.
Yeah.
What do you do with the NOI to get to value?
Cap rate.
Yeah. Use cap rate. So you can go from lease to NOI increase. You take that NOI, divide it by the cap rate, and you can quantify how much value you've created with that lease.
Right.
So that's how that just.
So, and in this case, it's 1,200 square feet, $30 a square foot triple net. That's $36,000 a year in rent on a 7 cap. So 30 is low, 7 cap is low. That's $514,000 of value. Would that owner of that shopping center, wouldn't it be worth it for him to go canvas for 10? I promise if he's canvassing for 10 hours and he listens to a couple of my videos to learn how to do it, he finds a tenant and he just in 10 hours raised the value of his shopping center $500,000.
Yeah.
So when you say, can I ever convince someone to do it and overcome their fear? Yes. Now, now we're talking about owners of shopping centers, right, who are also complaining about brokers. So I yell at them and I say, you go try it because it's hard. But if you're paying someone $40,000 and they're a kid that just graduated from a real estate school and he really should be in a cubicle underwriting Argus because he's just an introvert.
Yeah.
That guy who's making 40, 50, 60,000, you're not convincing him.
Right.
He's going to sit in his car shaking in his boots with the flyers.
Right.
And pretending that he went out.
Right. Yeah. Or he needs an improv class.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They should all do that.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, we did that all the time at Second City. We would work with businesses all the time and go, not me personally, but they had a whole wing of it that would go and entertain, but then also teach improv. Anyway, Alex and Mario, are they interested in commercial real estate?
I'm so happy. No one ever asks them. And these are my joy and pride. So they're not interested at all.
They're like me.
When they were kids, so I own three and at one point 4 shopping centers on a street, which by the way is the same street they went to grade school and we go to church.
Yeah.
So my older Alex is now 24 and Mario's 21. So they're 3 years apart. And Alex came home one day. He was 12. He goes, "Mom, you got to talk to Mario. He's telling everyone we own the whole street of real estate." And I had to sit him down and say, we own a blade of grass. We own blades of grass. We have partners and mortgages. I had to teach them monopoly, right?
Yeah.
But Alex is in LA and he was a rapper in high school, Timmy.
Oh, wow.
And he worked for Spotify and DistroKid and he moved out to LA and he has a superhero podcast.
Oh, nice.
And him and his partner are like the next Siskel and Ebert. It's super cool. And they're he's off the payroll, living in LA, and I'm so proud of him.
That was Alex, right? What's the name of the podcast? Do you know?
The Escape Pod Podcast.
Escape.
So they were up at 6 a.m. this morning because the Superman trailer got released and they had to film their reactions. So that's super fun. And
I'm checking that out.
Yep.
I'm so happy for him and he's living the dream and they're going to the Planet of the Apes premiere and the Mufasa premiere, and they got flown to New York from LA to go to the Deadpool premiere. So he's living the dream, and he's 24.
He's living my dream.
Yeah.
And then my little one, Mario, who yesterday was our Forever Family Day. He's been with our family 16 years.
Nice.
And we celebrate every year. He is the athlete. So he has been playing golf since he's 7. And he plays golf in college, and his dream is to play professional golf. And I'm hoping that I get to, watch him at the Masters one day.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
I was stationed in Augusta, Georgia for 3 years when I was in the Marine Corps, and I got to work security at the Masters.
Oh, my gosh.
So they paid me $8 an hour because they wanted Marines doing security, and I dressed in plain clothes. My job was to find people with cell phones and electronic devices, which you're not allowed to have. I was there literally 80 hours that week, the entire week.
We went to the Masters 3 years ago, and we had to leave everything in the car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't, there were guys like me that were going to try to find you.
Right.
Hey, I wanted to, you were talking about your boys. My daughter, I've got two sons who are 22 and 18. My oldest son graduates from the University of Kentucky tomorrow, which we're real excited to get him. You didn't know that?
Wildcats, right?
I didn't know it was tomorrow.
Yeah. He talks like he wants to go do something somewhere else, and then maybe 3, 5, 7 years from now, come back and take over the business. He says, take over. I'm like, buddy, you ain't taking over anything. My middle son is a senior in high school. He needs to do something physical. Like he's large, he's strong, you stick him behind a desk, he's gonna die on the vine.
Yeah.
He works in the lumber department at Home Depot right now. But my daughter's 15. She's very, very much like me. She would be, just looking at temperament and personality and just looking at all that, she'd be the one who's most like me. Okay. But I ask her sometimes, because anytime I do a deal and we drive by it, I'll talk her through how we're putting it together. I've done this with all my kids. I want them to get a feel for what I do to see if they're interested or not. And she perks up a little bit, and she's talked about having some interest. But these days when I ask her, like, hey, do you think you might want to come work with me? And she's like, nope. I'm like, you want to think about it? That was a pretty hard, definitive no.
Right.
She's like, I would never talk on the phone all day long. She's like, she doesn't like it when I call her. She's like,
right.
why don't you just text?
Right. Yeah.
She's like, the idea of her being on the phone, she hates that idea. So maybe she'll grow out of that, but
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe. But
my parents were in residential and they were in property management, and I would say I would never do this.
Right.
Yeah, our mom was she owned the largest Century 21 office in Kentucky.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
When growing up, my dad was the commercial developer and broker.
That's
amazing.
So we kind of had that as a background, but
we did. But it doesn't surprise me the trajectory that it seems like Alex and Mario are on. Like, to be raised with a powerhouse like you, like, that it does not surprise me at all. That's really, really cool.
Well, thank you. I tell your older son, I started a group years ago called Hijos, which is sons, S-O-N-S in Spanish. And Eric Munoz, which is it was basically, I saw all of these sons of my friends getting in the business, and I invited them for a lunch. I think there were 47 of them. I think 30 showed up, and I said, you guys have something so unique. Your dads are in the business. You work for your dads. You might be taking over your dad's business. You're going to have problems with your dads because dads and sons. And I said, but I'm just starting I just got you guys together. You guys take it and run with it. So we had one young man, and they did a poker tournament and a fishing thing, and then they kind of petered out. And so a couple years ago, I had this young man, Eric Munoz. His dad is Alex Munoz from the shopping center group in Atlanta. And I told him about the idea, and he restarted it. And it's just, I believe in networking in small groups, like Florida State people, women, leasing people. I just think it's more powerful. And so so Eric is restarting this group, and it's sons. So Eric Munoz, tell him to reach out if he's interested. And they do things virtually for people around the country, but sometimes if they're at a conference or whatever, they get together. So I just think it's a great group, for the ones that stay involved and engaged, and they have so much in common.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. That'd be a good guy to have on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great.
All right, so
like I said, legend. Yeah.
Beth, you want to give Timmy a pop quiz?
Yeah.
Yeah! All right.
So Beth, often we wrap up our podcast episodes with a pop quiz for Timmy, and here's how it works. We're going to ask him 5 questions. As our guest, you're going to ask the first question, and then question 3 and 5. So you'll do 1, 3, and 5. I'll do questions 2 and 4. Your questions can be about anything we talked about or anything else. We can play Stump Timmy if we want. You'll be surprised. He's been taking notes this entire time, so I'm expecting you to be pleasantly surprised that he's been picking up what you've been laying down. But, yeah, man.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
What is the one thing you should never say when you walk in to canvass a prospect?
I'm not sure, but my guess would be never. Well, you treat them like an owner, so never ask for the owner. Is that it?
Yay! Ding, 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 ding.
That away.
All
Very good.
right. Okay.
Right,
Yes.
you walked yourself into that one.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Question 2. Beth earlier in the episode mentioned that she's written 2 books.
Yes.
What are they?
One is Don't Say No for the Prospect, and the other one is the Retail Listing Playbook. Retail Listing Playbook? Is that what it is?
Oh, you're so close. The Retail Leasing Playbook.
Leasing. That's what I meant. What did I say? Listing? Leasing.
you did.
Retail
It was
leasing. I wrote it down. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, close
Great.
enough.
You're 2 for 2.
Okay.
Nicely done.
All right, we're trying to stump them. What percentage of women invest in the commercial real estate investing world?
3% and 1.5% don't have any like husbands or kind of, I guess,
Inheritance.
links. Yeah,
or-
inheritance. Yeah.
family, Mhm.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right. I wasn't ready for question 4. Let's go with she mentioned a all right, 2-part.
Okay.
She had 3-parter.
Okay.
You with it?
Yeah.
Beth invited a certain person to her conference. All right. The name, why she invited this person, and what did this person have to wear?
Yes. Well, this person had to wear a skirt and wig.
Okay.
He was invited because he did 34 deals within a short period of time, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
In 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And his name, I don't know if. Oh, Aaron Zucker.
Yay! All right. You got it.
All right.
Nicely done. Okay, 4 for 4. Beth, you want to... This
Close
is our
it out?
last chance. Question 5.
Okay, so what is the name of my recent newest podcast that I just started?
You have a shopping center, now what? Or I own a shopping center, now what?
There you
Yay.
go.
Yeah.
All right, 5 for 5. Nicely
What does
done.
he get? Does he get a prize?
I get the dopamine
What's the
hit.
word?
I get
You
a
to work
dopamine.
with that guy, right?
Yeah.
He gets to continue to work with stupid, you know.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. No, it's all for the dopamine hit. It gives me a big one when we do this. Well, I think this is a good transition. You've got a brand new podcast. It's been out for a couple months. That you've got 2 books, Retail Leasing Playbook, Don't Say No to the Prospect.
For the prospect.
For the prospect, thank you. I Own a Shopping Center, Now What is the podcast. You also have the Azor Academy. You've got your Women Investing Wednesdays that you do live on across all platforms. Where is the place? What am I missing? And where can people go find all this?
Azor Academy, and then all of the social media. So LinkedIn, Twitter, and mostly LinkedIn and Twitter. I am on
YouTube.
Instagram and Facebook, but I would say I spend the most of my time on, I guess, X and LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then if there's any ladies out there that want to come to the conference March 13th and 14th, you can find it on Azor Academy. And if there are guys that are watching, send your women. They will be more open to allowing you to buy more real estate when they leave the conference. They'll be more in tune about our industry and what we do and the whole process of it.
Great. And when you're saying Azor Academy, I assume it's azoracademy.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go to bethazor.com, she's got the podcast, Retail Listing Podcast, YouTube channel, all that's there. Yep. bethazor.com or azoracademy.com. Go to it. Beth, this was absolutely
So good.
It was so good. It was so good. And I'm the one that edits these, and with this, it feels like it's going to be the simplest edit.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing.
I was like, there's not much that will need to be cut, or it's entertaining as it is unedited. Just so full of value, and
It's kind of rare that we get a guest that's such a good communicator,
yeah.
that has such a legendary career,
Yes.
and is willing to share what she's
passion.
actually done. And so, and to listen to you communicate, and every time I've heard you speak, whether it's online or in person or whatever, you've always come across that way. And so we're just thrilled that you shared that with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, this was
Thanks
huge.
for having me, gentlemen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, go find those books. Sign up for the Academy. Sign your wives up for the Academy, your daughters, your sisters, and everything. And then go over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, ding that little bell. You can follow us on X at ComSpeakPod, on all the other social platforms at Commercially Speaking. We have a newsletter. It comes out every single Thursday for free.
Yeah, you can go to subscribe.wgbarron.com. This weekly newsletter, it takes just a couple minutes to consume. We'll share with you a recent podcast episode and then an agglomeration of other great content, whether it's business related, leadership, culture, negotiation, commercial real estate related stuff that I like to read. We put that together for you every week and send it out. It's a great way to stay connected. And, we'd love to have you join us there.
That's right. We got a new episode every single Monday. If you want to get a executive assistant to help you out with everything that you're doing in your business and stuff, you can go to superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. Let them know that you came from us.
And I also want to invite you to a special live episode that we're going to do on January 10th at noon Central Time.
Yes.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have a special guest, Michael Hieronymus, who is going to share with us what's happening in AI. What can we expect to be available and happening in 2025? I'm really excited about that. And he will be engaging with the audience. So you can find us streaming live on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, I believe, at noon on January 10th. So we'd love to have you join us then. And we'll see you there. That's going to be
That's right.
I'm excited to hear what Michael thinks is going to be happening.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. The more people there, the better. Come in and ask your questions. The link to that will actually be in the show notes. You can go to the link on YouTube and hit notification, all that. So you can go right in the show notes, everything that we talked about. Once again, Beth Azor, the canvassing queen, absolute legend. Thank you for joining us today.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
Beth.
Bye. Love you, brother.
Love you, man.
Bye, Alice.
Bye.